All right, good evening. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have established a quorum, and the next item on our agenda is any citizens desiring to address the board. Sandy, do we have anybody? We do not have anybody signed up for this evening. All right, the next item would be the chance report. Dr. Wallace.
So it's hard to believe we're at another board meeting. It seems like we've had two of them that are every 3 weeks instead of every 4. So just a few updates this evening that I would do. I'd like to start out, and I don't intend to start out on a sad note, but we do have several things that have occurred in our community that I feel obligated to say a few things. This evening, I'd like to take the opportunity to express our love and support to NCTC alum and Denton County Commissioner Bobby Mitchell in the tragic events that occurred in her home last evening. We are mourning the death of her husband and wish her best and speedy recovery. Also, to our Catholic community of students, faculty, and staff, we send our thoughts to you as the passing of Pope Francis. And finally, I would like to take a moment to remember the members of the softball team at Umpqua, Oregon Community College, and the tragic loss of a player, Kylie Jones, and head coach Jamie Strentz. We are keenly aware of the horror behind that kind of accident. It was almost a mirror example to ours. And it is sad when lives are lost. So I'd like us, if with your permission, Madam Chair, to just take just a brief moment of silence for those things tonight. Thank you. There is a lot going on legislatively. You have at your desk the latest version. I always get these past the point of when we post, but you have one that's called TAC Legislative Items of Note. Those are the bills that are the most active, I would argue, at this point in time, but there are several others that are impacting things. Early Friday the 11th, that morning, after more than 13 hours of debate, the Texas House of Representatives passed Senate Bill 1. I know it sounds ironic that they would pass a Senate bill, but remember, it's the Senate's time to lead the budget. So they passed that. State's budget for the upcoming biennium, followed shortly by the passage of House Bill 500, the supplemental budget bill for the current fiscal year. Community colleges fared really well in both those measures. No changes were made to our base formula funding and increased FAST allocation, and additionally the $89.5 million of supplemental request was funded, higher than anticipated outcomes under House Bill 8. So we're very happy about those two things. During the consideration of the supplemental bill and budget, the House adopted a motion to approve all pre-filed amendments, removing them from immediate debate, so that will also help us with further expansion of those supplemental resources. Conferences for both budget bills are expected to be announced this week. They typically include appropriations subcommittees and Senate finance work groups. They'll be very involved in the daily and or more detailed organization of Senate Bill 1. The Senate bill also passed, Senate did, 1786 unanimously. That is the cleanup version to the House Bill 2110, which is very important for community colleges. That's the cleanup bill. We've affectionately called it the House Bill 8. It continues the important work of redefining the House bill implementation process, but among the key provision, it formalizes some further community, the collaboration between community colleges and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board by recognizing credentials of value, expands transfer metrics now to include private and independent colleges. That would be an additional $29 million in funding, since that would be passed to include I-cuts in our transfer work, which is pretty exciting because we know that we have a lot of our students that are transferring to private universities. The bill now heads to the Texas House for further consideration, and we'll be closely monitoring that. Those are just a few highlights. At your desk, you see a list of bills. There is also additional conversations occurring. Dr. Miller and I have been very involved in a work group in the state looking at the property tax bills that are out there and the board specific bills that refer to you all and your governance changes. Also bills that reflect bond ratings, bond capacities, how often you can go out for bonds, GO, how much debt you can incur. There are probably 15 or 20 bills just on that topic alone that we're tracking. The CAT annual conference, I would go ahead and have you mark your calendars, is September 11 through 13 in Austin. Their theme this year is, Chairwoman Metzler knows, is tactful trusteeship from case studies to campus solutions. If you're interested in attending that, just let Sandy know at your earliest convenience. That would be great. It's going to be in Austin, yes. I think registration will open in May, we understand, for that. Other items, the North Central Texas College Foundation hosted its annual gala, and I know that Debbie will be reporting on the external funding report in a moment, but I do want to just celebrate that event with everyone that was able to attend. Great honor for everyone, and a special thank you to our foundation staff, marketing, our maintenance department, and, of course, Sandy Otto, all of those folks for making that event really special. It was a great night. We're also pleased to have the Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson, Senator Brent Hagenbu, and Congressman Brandon Gill all present with hundreds of others for the MOH Host City Museum ribbon cutting. It was really exciting to see how many turned out for that event. Some of them decided they would come back later because it was so full that they thought they might visit that museum at a later date. Other dates for your information: early voting begins tomorrow and runs through April 29th from 8 to 5 at the Gainesville Civic Center. We do have one contested precinct, so that would be our place, so that begins tomorrow. The election day itself is May 3rd in each polling location, and it runs from 7 till 7. For polling locations, you can go to our website and under the elections page find that information. As a side note, I would like to say how much I appreciate the diligence and hard work of Sandy Otto. Sandy's done a tremendous job of working an election. Elections are hard work, and there's a lot of new regulation around it. So would you please show your appreciation to Sandy for doing such a job? Surprise, Sandy, I didn't tell you. That's why you don't get my report early. The other thing is spring graduations, May 16th, 6 o'clock p.m. at the University of North Texas. And then our next board meeting, of course, is May 12th. Remember, you changed that to canvass the votes a little earlier than the previous was planned, so May 12th. Any questions? I am more than willing to try to answer them this time.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Senate Bill 37, can you just elaborate on exactly what might change in that, specific to how that might change for the board?
Senate Bill 37 is a comprehensive bill that would change not only the job of the governing board for community colleges, but also the governing boards for the universities associated with public finance here in the state, so all of our public universities. You will be placed in charge of many things you currently are not in charge of. One is curriculum reform. You will be required to appoint or may appoint a committee comprised of both faculty, staff, and then there's also nuances of wanting to include business industry partners in our curriculum for all things, including academic courses. There will be a established core curriculum committee by the state under the coordinating board. And then there's a ROI manageable debt analysis of degree program to completion that's a part of that bill, where it's basically going to get the state where they don't fund if it doesn't provide a certain cost return, or investment return. Your governing authority would change in two ways. I would have to review all major administrative positions and report those recommendations to the governing board. As it's currently defined, I would move from evaluating 6 to evaluating probably around 30. I would have to evaluate all the deans myself, all of those directly involved in curricular decisions for sure. So that would include, in our case, chairs, and all senior administration beyond just the vice chancellors. The governing board would then have the discretionary authority over all hiring decisions made at the institution. So you could come in and discretionary, is basically you use when you want to, and there's no details of what that looks like. What would be a requirement for you all to decide, no, Dr. Wallace, you hired someone we don't want you to hire, or no, you've hired a faculty member. So I don't know what that means. It could mean that you're brought every new employee to the board in the future for approval or not just contract. So we'll see how that goes. It also has a large portion dedicated to faculty senates. We've made a little progress there. Originally, they were going to end faculty senates for anyone non-tenured, And the argument was there's a lot of community colleges that don't have tenure. And so now it is not that only. You can serve on it if you don't have tenure, but you can have no more than 60. And then there are clinically defined ways you all have to appoint two faculty. I have to appoint someone. They can vote on a certain number themselves, but then they can't serve more than a certain number of years on the faculty senate as a result of that. The other is a new office for higher education referred to as, well, it's the Office of the Ombudsman. In any event where a student believes there's a violation of the new DEI restrictions, they can turn the college into that ombudsman and get a resolution directly from the state over the instructional things that might have occurred. That's something we're concerned about, of course. There's other pieces to Senate Bill 37 that are just pretty cumbersome, but those are I would say that's the biggest highlight. I brought some stuff with me thinking that might come up because that's a big one that everyone's reviewing. You'd have to review minor degree and certificate programs every year rather than instructional council having full authority over that. There's some other legislation that leads to reducing our immunities, which means that if a student perceives that there is a injustice in the classroom where we used to say they could litigate that and we were covered with certain immunity where we couldn't go past a certain dollar amount, that immunity may be removed. So one litigation could cost half your reserves, all of your reserves. It depends on what those might look like, but that's a little bit frightening in that regard as far as a lot of those coming off. I'll attempt to answer questions.
Want to talk about House Bill 19?
I can talk about bills till you don't want to hear anymore. So House Bill 19 is pretty frightening in a couple of ways. It is restricting the ability for you all to incur debt on behalf of the college in a large way. And there's 4 or 5 bills that do that. And Dr. Miller, you're with me on all this, so be sure I don't confuse my bills. But let me just give you the gambit of what we're seeing. We're seeing everything from one bill that would, and that's House Bill 19, that would restrict, it proposes a 20% cap on debt that could inadvertently, in our opinion, penalize smaller colleges and even fast-growing colleges. So in other words, this board would no longer be allowed to go out for debt any more than 20% of the 3-year average of tax revenue from Cook County only. So that would mean never going in debt for more right now, as we said, than maybe $1.5 million. That's if you're generating $6 million. You could do math. I'm trying to. We don't know yet if it's just the tax dollars or includes the INS with that yet. Then there's some bills that actually, in addition to House Bill 19, that would restrict your ability to pay off long-term debt, not allowing you to do so. So there's a lot of contradiction in these bills right now. But, we'd agreed that if you're wanting greater transparency, we can do that. But there are also bills. If you look at that little handout I gave you and you go to, if you go to the 3rd page or 2nd page, there is one bill, second page. Senate Bill 2528 creates a petition election tax rate for junior colleges. That means voters can petition for an election to lower the rate at any point, and the governing body has to adopt the rate as designated threshold. And so we've got our legs to our stool of finance being tied in multiple ways. You've got tuition and fee tied. You've got our state appropriations now based on outcomes only. And that's great if you're performing, but if you happen to have a year where you're not graduating as many people, you pay back if they overproject. Then you've got tax dollars locally being controlled on what you can and can't do, and your bond, and then we're still trying to figure out what's going to be the impact of federal regulation based on the closure of the DOE, and whether that will come to states, federal financial aid, and then what will that look like. There's also bills in here that worry me about what is considered an illegal student versus a undocumented. What does that mean? And there's a lot of bills that would require them to pay out-of-state tuition and not be available to them any state, federal, or or state or local grants. There's a lot out there right now, and so we're at that crunch where you're hearing this one's moving 10 minutes from now and this one's moving 12 minutes. Like we had someone come from Alamo this morning to testify on HB 19 because it was pretty quick and they could get there, and so
Wow.
I
Buckle up.
I'm so sorry. There's not much good news in that.
Well, thank you for your
Any
report.
questions you all have call me if you have any questions about things you're hearing. We're trying to keep the staff informed, but we're also trying not to ensue some forms of panic.
Right.
Because
Right.
there's some things in here that faculty are very, very concerned about in Senate Bill 37 for sure. Thank you.
All right, the next item would be the informative reports, and the first one would be the finance report from Dr. Miller.
Chair. Tonight you have in front of you the March financial statements, and I would say they're fairly typical, nothing out of the ordinary in these reports. So I wanted to take an opportunity to call your attention to one specific line item on the very first page entitled Statement of Funds. Some of you may have noticed that for almost 9 months now, it was sometime last summer, you voted to use board reserve funds to help with some improvements that were needed in the simulation center over in the Allied Health Building. And so once that was approved, a new line was placed under board funds committed for projects. That number's been sitting at $446,000 ever since I started placing it on the report about 8 or 9 months ago. But I just wanted to give you an update on that. In case you may not recall, there were almost $1 million worth of improvements that we needed. The agreement was that the college would fund the first $300,000 of those awards. Then the board agreed to potentially cover the balance of almost $700,000, but we had applied for a JET grant. That JET grant did come through, almost $340,000. So that reduced what the board was committing to the project down to about that $447,000. So it's taken us a while as we've been spending the funds. We used the college funds, we used JET grant funds. This month, we have started spending some board reserves. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. You will see that number start moving with the next monthly report. But I've been watching that closely and realized there's been no movement. But I wanted to make sure you were aware we are moving and we are getting there. In fact, virtually I believe all the items have actually, we've created requisitions for them. So we're making those purchases, and I expect about early in the summer, we'll have that project completely finished and everything will be in and installed. Are there any questions that you might have, whether it's about that or anything else in the financials? One other thing that I did want to specifically speak about tonight is the bond project that we had a presentation last month from our bond financing group, and everything's moving along smoothly with that. We expect to have a bond sale 3 weeks from today, the morning of the May board meeting, and that will be brought to you for approval at the meeting that evening on May 12th. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've noticed there's a lot of upheaval in the financial markets over the last few weeks. And I was getting a little nervous not knowing how that might impact this bond issue, because we want the best possible interest rate on these bonds. I reached out late last week, and I was assured that at that time, while there had been some significant movements in the interest rates, that basically they had gone up, they had come back down. As of last week, it was pretty flat compared to where we were with the projections that were brought to you last month. What's going to happen in the next 3 weeks? Who knows? but at least so far, it seems to be at a stable position. So we hope that those rates are, you know, somewhere near what was presented to you last month. But it's a competitive bid. Depends on what's going on in the bond market as of Monday, May 12th. That's what will determine our rate of interest. Tomorrow afternoon, in fact, I am going to participate in a bond ratings call. It's common. In this case, it's S&P, Standard & Poor's, that evaluates and provides us with a credit rating. And just as a reminder, we actually went through this ratings process about this time last year when we were working on our last tax notes. And so I went back and I was looking at that ratings report that they provided, and I thought I would bring to your attention, there were 5 specific things they stated about the college. They gave 3 positive financial notes and 2 what they would consider negative or concerns. And after looking at these, I'm very optimistic at what will happen with tomorrow's ratings call, because I think we've addressed and we expect significant improvement over the 2 areas that they had concerns. I'll tell you right now, the 3 things they commented favorably on was diverse property tax base with significant flexibility in the operating tax rate that remains well below the state's maximum rate. We know we're well below the state maximum rate. Secondly, good adjusted operating revenue diversity. And thirdly, ample cash reserves for the rating level and compared to those of our peers. The 2 areas of concern, one was materially declining enrollment levels since 2019 that began to experience stabilization in the fall of 23. That's right, our enrollment, we made that turn and started improving in the fall of 23. Well, now we can also show them fall of 24, we had considerable improvement in enrollment. And that's continued on through our spring semester as well. So if that was a concern for them, we should be able to alleviate some of those concerns. And then finally, they had a concern about, they called weaker financial performance in fiscal 23 because we actually had a negative net operating margin in our audit 2 years ago, about, I think it was about $3.1 million decline in our operating level, and that was almost flat in the last audit. So we had a $3 million swing in the positive direction there. So because of those, when I saw those concerns and I know where we stand today, I have a feeling that everything will go just fine.
Do you think we'll go up?
Well, according to Standard & Poor's, we're AA minus.
Yes.
And I don't expect a change up or down, to be honest. I definitely don't expect it to go down. I don't know how close we were when they gave us this rating last time, how close we might have been to being at the next highest level, but I fully expect we'll be at the same place. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
So, Madam Chairman, if I could just say one thing. We will know a lot May 12th, and we will know if that will be your last opportunity to incur debt, because that's what we're looking at.
Big day.
Big day. We'll know a whole lot more, because what it would mean is if, and we're also looking at the maintenance note options and whether they're going to disappear. A very important day, because that could be the last project you're able to do for a number of years. And so we'll keep that in mind. We'll be updating you at that point as well on where those are looking, because there's some bills I didn't go into to details about that are affecting our K-12 partners as well. So I'll give you an example where Gainesville's out right now for a bond election. There are 2 different bills. If they were to not succeed in that election, One bill says you have to wait 2 years to go. The other says you have to wait 5 years before you can go out. And if you're successful, you have to wait 2 and 5. And so there's a lot of restrictions. So I just wanted to kind of make that comment as we move forward. We'll be sure to keep you all informed on that part as well.
All right, about the external funding report, Debbie.
Well, thank you for letting me come and share about the exciting news in external affairs. As you know, each quarter we come and we present our information. From a foundation perspective, excited to say our asset balance is $17.1 million. And I do have to admit, though, we have some large scholarships that are going to be paid from that. So that number will go back down. But right now, we're really excited about that number. The quarter, we received over $447,000 in donations to the foundation. And then, as Dr. Wallace mentioned, the gala, we were so excited that we were able to recognize or induct 99 corporations or individuals into the Honor Circle, which is honestly the most we've ever done. So that was an exciting thing to happen. And then, as you know, as part of a special tribute to Charles Draper, there was a endowed scholarship, memorial scholarship established. And just wanted to report that that has over $28,000. And so we're really proud of the foundation for making that recommendation, and Dr. Wallace, and then also getting community members to support that scholarship. Sharice Bruley at the Graham campus was instrumental in establishing our first scholarship, working with the First Methodist Church in Graham. They're going to be honoring M.J. Brown, who was a leader within that church community, but they're establishing our first RN, or LVN to RN scholarship. So as y'all know, that'll be kicking off this fall, so it's exciting that we already have a scholarship for that. And then also we worked with Alex and Amanda Payne. They have established an endowed scholarship and also set up a 5-year pledge so that they'll continue to put money into the endowed scholarship, but also they wanted to award annual scholarships for Denton County students. So excited about that as well. As y'all know, our emergency fund is an area that really helps many students that may not stay in school if they did not get that extra support. So this past quarter, we helped 12 students, and we awarded over $10,000 of funding in that emergency fund. I want Cody to come up real quickly, and we had a student that we hoped could come and tell her story, but she sent her story to Cody because she could not be here tonight. So Cody, if you don't mind coming up. This is Cody Ford. He is the manager of the foundation, and while I have a moment, I just want to thank him for all his work and involvement while I was out. He did a super job, so thanks, Cody.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, so this is from Jasmine Williams. She said, at the beginning of this semester, I was living in my car. I was homeless, uncertain, and carrying the weight of trying to pursue my dream of becoming a nurse while navigating one of the most challenging periods in my entire life. I was enrolled in the LVN program at NCTC, determined not to give up, but I was constantly struggling to meet even the most basic needs. I didn't know how I was going to make it through. Thanks to the generosity and support and of the Scholarship Foundation at North Central Texas College, I was given the opportunity to stabilize my life. The foundation not only helped me secure safe and stable housing, but their support also afforded me the opportunity to focus on my education without the overwhelming stress of daily survival. With a roof over my head, food to eat, and access to necessities, I was able to give my full attention to my studies and academic success. This support has truly been life-changing because of the foundation's generosity. I am now just one semester away from graduating. What once felt nearly impossible is now within my reach. I am filled with hope for my future. I plan to use my experience and resilience to care for others with compassion, especially those who are vulnerable and overlooked just like I was. I am deeply grateful and forever indebted to the NCTC Foundation for believing in me and investing in my future. Their support did not just help me stay in school, but it also gave me a second chance at life. Jasmine Williams.
Nice, yes.
That's just one of the stories, but I just thought that was so impactful because truly Cody and Rhonda and Diane and them just really walked her through keeping her in school and helping her each week to figure out how she was going to have a roof over her head. So thanks, Cody, for sharing that. Also, then, if we look at our grant development, grant management and development department, I've asked John Bonifant. John, if you'll stand up. As y'all know, Donna has retired as our director of grants, and we're very excited to have John join our team, and is just doing a great job working with getting various grants. And so, John, thank you for all you're doing. Over the past quarter, we've submitted 8 grant proposals. We've heard from one, which was a positive. It was funded. 7 are still pending, and so we're excited to see how they go. The total awards of those was $280,000, but we have $1.7 million still out to see if we're funded. We received another true grant, which was the $280,000, and that's to develop a one-semester bearing an occupational skills award for operational technology cybersecurity. Rebecca Sanchez is leading that initiative and doing a great job with that. We also closed out the true grant for as y'all know, that helped us fund and equip the Champion Circle. And so those have been closing out. But if you looked at the one that just did close out, we awarded 39 students with OSA certificates in bookkeeping and data analytics, 23 students advanced certifications and boot camps, for a total of 55 receiving basics and industry certifications through that TRUE program. So that was exciting to look at those numbers. In looking at our SBDC, Lori Logan and her business advisors do such a super job. They, in looking at that, NCTC has been associated with Small Business Development Center for 39 years. That was hard when you look at the number of years that they've done that. In 2024, they had 81 new starts, 16.5 in capital infusion, that's 16.5 million, and served 694 clients. And so in your little newsletter that we provided, there's a highlight of Rock Creek Winery in Aubrey, and they really helped them with their business planning, with their marketing, and so it's exciting to see businesses flourishing from the support that they receive from SBDC. And then our marketing department, as y'all know, they are constantly working to make NCTC look good and do great things. And so this quarter, they provided 330 graphic design projects, 198 print projects, 73 media outreach activities, and then also lots of updating and changing to the website. They sent out 500,000 emails for the spring email campaign, and that we're very blessed to have such a creative and talented marketing team. So I want to thank Elizabeth and her team for all their work that they do. Anyway, you can see lots going on in external affairs. And if y'all have any questions, happy to address those, but just appreciate us being able to kind of share some of the things that's going on in our area.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it. All right, item number 5 is the consent agenda. At this time, there are 2 items here. Is there any board member that would approve, that would like to make a motion to take those independently, or if not, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda, item A and B. Moved by Mr. Grime. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Dylan Ott. Additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your right hand. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, under item number 6, it's discussion and action on A, consideration of funding the OER faculty work from board reserves.
I'll do that.
Dr. King.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson Metzler and Board of Regents, for giving me the opportunity to discuss the status of our OER project. You remember last month, it's only been a couple of weeks ago, but we had a report from 2 of our very energetic instructors who are responsible for leading the OER work here at our college. If you remember back in their update, they referenced how we had advanced so far in the OER material development, and that was from the generous board reserve gift that you made possible. They shared information on how important this work is. but I wanted to go back and just reference a couple of quick points. The OER work, Open Educational Resources, provide that open access. That is a significant cost savings for our students. Over the life of the work, and it's been about 6 years here at the college, we're estimating somewhere about $1.7 million savings to students. When we're talking about cost of attending, the book, the material expense is an important part. There are other parts, but the materials are huge as well. I'm very proud that many of our college faculty have been deeply involved in the research and the development of our textbook options. I want you to know this is organic. While we provide the input, this is faculty driven. Our chairs work closely with their faculty. I'm very proud of that. We welcomed interested faculty to the table, and they are definitely leaning in and making the most of this opportunity. Our faculty research, they determine what materials have the best quality and have academic rigor to support their curriculum. We're not going for something that is inferior. We make certain that the quality is still there, so the content of the course is there for the student as well. So we feel like we're not sacrificing quality. I want you to know that instruction appreciates your investment in this important work, and I'm coming to you tonight to request consideration of funding to advance another year of OER development with an additional, we think, in the neighborhood of another 10 or 12 courses this next year, so we can continue the momentum we have now for another year. So with that being said, the administration recommends the approval of expansion of OER development and requests the utilization of board reserves in the amount of $50,000 to be used over the summer and early next fall. And I'm available to answer any question you might have.
Any questions? Okay. If no further questions, then we would accept a motion for the approval of the board reserves in the amount of $50,000.
I would like to make the motion that we support the OER work by continuing that efforts with $50,000 for the next upcoming year.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Dr. Bellows, second by Mr. Grime. Additional discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your right hand. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I'd just like to thank them for all the work they're doing. I think this is
Absolutely.
an excellent spend of money. I think it's a huge savings for so many disadvantaged students that are just trying to get through school. So
Thank you.
I love the program.
Appreciate that.
All right, and at this time, I'd like to make one last announcement, that I'd like to recognize our retiring board member, Dylan Ott, and thank him for his service. This is his last official meeting. Maybe he'll come back and visit one more time if we ask him nicely. But anyway, Dylan, thank you so much for all your hard work and your attendance and your dedication to the college over these last years. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best in all your endeavors. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is executive session. And at this time, members of the board, we will move to the agenda item number 7, which is to hear and consider an appeal filed by Kelly Kane in accordance with Section 551074 of the Texas Government Code, which is commonly known as the Texas Open Meeting Act. The board may conduct this hearing in closed session. Therefore, we will now adjourn into closed session. The time is now 6:39 p.m. Thank you very much.
Special. Little closet full of.
The time is 7:01 p.m. The board has heard an appeal in accordance with Board Policy GB Legal and Local filed by Kelly Kane. In accordance with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, any action regarding this matter must be taken in open session. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board deny the appeal and uphold the prior decisions.
Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Ott. Do we have a second? Second. A second by Mr. Henderson. Are there any discussions on this motion? If no further discussion, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. All right, at this point, we will, the last agenda item is the adjournment, and so I would assume, I would make the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Ott and Mr. Henderson.